Hello and welcome to The Download from Wise Woman and Wordsmith, where insight meets inspiration. A space for creatives, dreamers and visionaries ready to spark new ideas, ignite purpose and reimagine possibilities. Here we share downloads of wisdom, stories and strategies to help you thrive in your creative journey. I'm your host, Jill Marshall. Tune in, connect and let the magic unfold.
Joy tomorrow.
Welcome back to The Download and welcome to the final episode in this little season of Friends. I want to end on the kind of friendship that stretches across both time and age in all its senses. I mean old friends in terms of age, literal years of aliveness, and then old friends as in the friends who've been with you for long periods of your life. The ones that arrive late, yet teach you something essential, and the ones that have been with you from the very beginning. So to start us off, I'm opening with this beautiful line by Robert Fisher. True friendship isn't about being inseparable, it's about being separated and nothing changes. As we close the season, that feels like the perfect note, that steadiness, that continuity, that quiet but astonishing constancy that a true friend brings, whether you've known them for 50 weeks or 50 years. Before I get to the friend I've known the longest, I want to honour the friends who are old in years, perhaps, but new in my life. Sue, who will be turning 80 this Christmas. Susan is proof that life keeps offering you extraordinary people if you stay open enough to notice them. We met volunteering for a furniture recycling charity, where she was indomitably in charge of the painting room. This made sense, as she is in fact an artist who's had a lot of success with her paintings over the years. And she's also a former head teacher, so we know what that means. Sue is so many things, though. An artist, yes, an avid sailor who's yachted across Europe on several occasions and took off last year for a new sailing adventure on the Norfolk Broads. She's a trained opera singer who finagled her way into semi-pro Cambridge University choirs as a teenager, along with a similarly cheeky but deserving friend. She's built schools and communities in India as a volunteer abroad and is a social activist on many fronts. In fact, she'd be far more likely to meet up with me for a wine after waving placards at passing cars on the high street than for a cup of tea after a knitting class, although she probably does that too. She has this adventurous spirit, the kind of woman who says yes to things you'd expect from someone half her age, and who you find yourself saying yes to as well. She's a feisty and indomitable spirit with a wicked twinkle in her blue eyes and a fair cohort of admirers. She reminds me that expanding, learning, adventuring, none of it has an expiry date. When it's her birthday on Boxing Day, she'll be wondering what mountains to climb in her 9th decade, I'm sure. And I'll be thinking of her, thinking of adventures. And then there's Alison, full of style and curiosity and humour. She carries her 70s like someone carrying a treasure chest, lightly, but with an awareness of its worth. We bonded over a love of dogs. In fact, I was volunteering for the organisation Borrow My Doggy, so I could get a dog fix, but also help out with her bouncy Jack Russell Lottie with occasional walks. Instead of that happening, however, we ended up going on walks ourselves, and then Alison introduced me to an older Jack Russell, the image of Basil Brush, who needed a home. Champ became mine, and the four of us would head off for many a ramble through the Peak District. Each time we'd pick somewhere further afield, slightly more challenging, unexplored and fascinating, and with the excuse of exercising our dogs, we'd put the world to rights and stumble through puddles and over stiles to take in the next spectacular view. One time we set off on a walk that was meant to be local, but then turned down the next country lane and the next as the rain grew ever more torrential. If we weren't up to our armpits in mud, the dogs certainly were, and we had to motivate ourselves with the promise of a cake and a coffee in a cafe at the end of the trail. They almost didn't let us sit down, so drenched and dirty were we. But they did, and thus fortified, we got up and did it all again on the way back, thanking the doggy heavens that we had indefatigable Jack Russells and didn't have to carry them. Alison checked her Fitbit when we got home, and we'd done 18,000 steps in driving rain and sludgy mud, and she's in her early 70s with a heart condition. She models ageing as something textured and interesting, not something that narrows you. And you'll also be pleased to hear that as I'm overseas, Champ is now tormenting my elderly parents into long walks, too much food, and basil brush impressions. And what these two women have taught me is this: not all long-term friendships are from your younger years. Some arrive late, fully formed, wise and vibrant, and they match and then expand the map of who you can be. They remind me that friendship isn't just about shared history. Sometimes it's about shared future. And then, from old in age to oldest in time, enter Christine, the friend who has been in my life the longest. Christine, the only person still allowed to call me Gillian, which is a name so deeply rooted in childhood that hearing it pulls me back instantly to who I was when life was just beginning to shape me, and especially to when my mum was shouting at me. And as she generally goes by Chris, I guess it's the same for Christine. I may be the only one who gets away with calling her by her full name, but that's what you get with old friends. And old we are. We met at school, aged 5, and then Christine and I grew up together in suburban Manchester. We all grew up together, in fact. Christine's sister, Rhiannon, who's really close to her in age and in connection. Our friends Amanda and dearly departed Jane, all from that very young age in a northern city, all the way through to now, some half a century later. Christine still lives there, in fact, back in the same house that she grew up in. She stayed home while I went off to do A-levels and university and across continents, and yet she has lived a big life in her own gorgeous, grounded, glamorous way. While, of course, a Mancunian, at heart she's a feisty Welshwoman, quick-tempered, quick-witted, with a legendary pointy finger that has been known to stop people mid-sentence. A pointy finger that famously got us thrown out of a nightclub, aged 19, when she tried to convince the owner we were 21 and old enough to be there. And yet underneath that fire is a woman who has this deep, calm equanimity, someone who can always laugh at herself, shake off a sad moment, and move through difficulty with grace. And glamour. She is glamorous always. And as we speak, she's been celebrating her special big birthday in Seville, Spain, with hosts of friends turning up to surprise her in another country for kava and cake and special celebrations. Of course she is. Christine may be someone who stayed in Manchester with her family, with the life she built, and she's mentioned at times that it seems a bit staid compared with the rest of us. But oh no, she has never been staid. She has never been small. Despite being extremely clever and high-performing in school and sixth form, she left early and got a long-term job in a bank, and then converted that into a more expansive career in corporate banking and in compliance. She married younger than the rest, raised kids, divorced and remarried, stayed close to her sister, who for a long time was overseas. And then, in what I think is such a gorgeous testament to her curiosity and expansiveness, she and hubby Glenn created a second home in France, and not for an expat life. They dived in, head, feet and heart first. A house they've spent a decade restoring with love, going back and forth across the channel with trailers and visitors and French wine for back home. They've learned the language, and where they couldn't, they've bumbled through in pidgin French, even when they couldn't follow the conversations fully, or the Calvados had taken a hold. They've honoured the villages and indeed the country's wartime history, mingling at D-Day events and integrating into the local community, as though they'd been born there, not expats, not outsiders, just part of the place. And this is what I mean when I say Christine lives a big life. She's deeply rooted, but wide open. For instance, she is the one friend, and possibly the only person in my life, who has come to visit me, often with young children in tow and having to work things out to extraordinary lengths to get there, in every single place I've lived, and there have been many. Off to uni in Cambridge, Christine visited. London, Winchester, elsewhere. Yep, she visited them all in increasingly bigger constellations of family and difficulty. Other side of the world? No problem. Here we come. She put it more strongly than that, but you get the gist. When Christine and her husband and one of her sons visited me in New Zealand for my daughter's wedding, She arrived off the plane looking as chic as I'd dare to be on a night out, having Googled and purchased what would be the right thing to wear for global travel. She planned their entire itinerary to fit in all their NZ dreams, like a trip to Eden Park, home of the All Blacks, while still leaving time for celebrations, fun time and downtime with friends and family. In so doing, she bonded with my sister, also named Christine, and they then became known as the Christines. Honestly, they were a kind of glamorous mafia, a formidable duo of the type where you tell people, "Oh, don't mess with the Christines." I didn't even get a chance to warn people about the infamous pointy finger, but I'm sure it was due to be unholstered on a few occasions during that trip. Say hello to my little friend. And they were amazing. The Christines got things done. They did it beautifully, quietly, efficiently, and out of love. They ran reconnaissance on the wedding venue after devastating floods and storms and an actual cyclone that nearly stopped everyone arriving and which had submerged the location under meters of water just hours before the ceremony. It was done without me asking, without any fuss, just to make sure everything was okay and that I didn't have to take on one more ounce of stress. And then Christine also casually threw together a dinner for 10 people the night before the wedding. Just did it, as if she were putting on a kettle. Again, so I wouldn't have to add another thing to my endless list, and we could relax and enjoy a little pre-party. Oh, and a post-party, and a going back to the UK party, and a why don't we do this again in Berlin kind of party. She's good at parties. I'm very sorry to have missed Seville, because it will have been an exceptional time. You see, Christine may have visited me everywhere I've lived, even on the other side of the world, but sadly I've not been able to do the same with her. Even the house in France, which I've yet to see. I couldn't get to her wedding to Glen, although I was really there in spirit. And that, I think, is the key. Old friendships are more than the places. We've known each other for so long that she has seen every version of me, the child, the teen, the young woman, the writer, the mother, the seeker, the one who left and the one who came home and then left again. She is the witness to all of my ages as I am to hers. And that's what makes long-term friendship so astonishing. Someone holds the continuity of you, sometimes when you can't even do it yourself. So, Christine, Gillian here, this episode is for you. For your glamour, for your fire, for your famous pointy finger, for the equanimity and the ability to laugh at yourself and shrug things off, for the loyalty, the big life, the celebrations, the mafia, and the deep, lifelong, nothing changes friendship. Happy, big, important birthday, matey. Let's celebrate soon. Old friends are gold friends, and you, my dear, are solid gold. Lots and lots of love. And that brings me to the end of this little season of Friends. Each episode has explored a different kind of friends relationship. The unexpected ones, the healing ones, the creative ones, the soul ones. But this episode, this one's different. This is the one about longevity, about friendship as time travel, about the people who are both your past and your present, the ones who don't just fit into your life, but who hold its history. If the earlier episodes were about the shape of friendship, this final one is about its substance, about old friends being gold friends, whether they are old in age or simply old in time. To Sue, Alison and Christine, enjoy your beautiful birthdays, and here's to many more. And with that, I'll see you in the next season of The Download. Who knows where it may lead? Thanks for tuning in to the Download podcast. Feel free to like, comment and share and all of that good stuff. And for more about my books, please find us on Facebook, YouTube and more.